A very good evening, one and all. I know it's after lunch and we had a very firesome chat on cybersecurity, but I assure you, all of you guys, that this is going to be an even more enterprising session because this is where the actual action takes place. That's the state governments. So the topic for today is uh, digital readiness at the state government level. So we have here the various leaders from the state, also accompanied with the industry representatives as well. So we have a full packed panelists here to share their thoughts and how they want to take it forward. Just a quick thought about the entire topic: digital transformation. Now, digital transformation has been the buzzword so far, and with the advent of COVID, it has only enhanced its importance even more. So, how do we actually decode this digital transformation? It is through effectively measuring its readiness. And that's exactly what our topic is today. So, it says that how equipped are we at the state level? What is the readiness levels at the state level to take forward the biggest digital transformation across the globe? And to hear from it, right? So, we have all the panelists here, geared ready. Probably because of this reason, because of its importance, the Economic Times have carried out a quick survey in 19 countries. And this survey talks about what is the digital readiness across all of these countries. And fortunately, I repeat, fortunately, India is in the leaderboard. And I have no doubts to say confidently, some of the leaders sitting here in this panel have silently contributed towards that leaderboard milestone achieved by our country. So, and today's focus would be to try and see how each of these leaders in their own sphere of control have worked the strategies and helped this country to achieve this milestone, right? So, to I'm just looking at to have a small approach to the entire discussion. um, this digital readiness quotient is always attributed towards three lenses. One is the people aspect, the second is in terms of the policy and intervention aspect, and third is the technology aspect itself. When I say the people aspect, what I mean is the awareness and the inclination and the affinity of the people towards digital inclusion, right? And I was so fortunate when I look back, Sri Jayesh Ranjan ji has had this foresight much early times itself. He had thought about how people-centric approaches becomes the critical aspect of digital transformation. Now, the state of Telangana, when it was formed new, it had a high footprint, high tall order to achieve, and they had taken this strategy, such as people-centric approaches towards the digital transformation. So let's hear from Jayesh Ranjan ji to see how they have kind of used this people-centric approach towards digital transformation. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Arunji. And first of all, I would like to congratulate ET and IBM for putting together this event. 7 years of Digital India have rolled by, and this is a very right time to take stock and plan for the next, let us say, decade or so, the decade as it is being called now. So, as Arunji has mentioned, in Telangana, we are looking at digital transformation in two ways. So, in fact, incidentally, a few months before Digital India was rolled out, Digital India was rolled out in July 2015. A few months before that, we had independently started our own initiative, which is called Digital Telangana. And if I have to explain Digital Telangana in a very layman kind of way, Digital Telangana rests on two pillars. There is a pillar of supply, because no amount of digital transformation can happen if you don't have digital infrastructure. So creating infrastructure is very important. Of course, in Digital India, we have BharatNet, we have other ways. But in Telangana also, we have taken that responsibility very seriously. And right from day one, we have our own signature program, which is called T-Fiber. And we are very clear that every home in the state, every household in the state will be given connectivity through a reliable, high quality optic fiber cable. So Digital India, BharatNet talks about connecting the panchayats, and then thereafter you can connect the households using Wi-Fi or low-range satellites or whatever else is available. But in Telangana, we want to connect the households right from day one, and we are almost there. I guess we are towards the end of August. My sense is that by February or March, we would have connected every home in the state, and it's not a small number. There are close to 8.5 million homes, every homes, and some of these would be in rural areas, remote areas, in the middle of forest, on hills, and all that. Regardless of where you are, you will be provided connectivity. So this is a supply aspect, and of course, we do it in other ways also. Optic fiber cable is one. We are also facilitating telecoms to roll out their networks. And I'm happy to share, because of the ease of doing business, laws and regulations that we have created. In fact, one of the largest telecom provider in the country has told us that amongst all the states, Telangana is the one which will achieve 100% saturation the fastest.
Wow.
And of course, now we are on the verge of rolling out 5G. Hyderabad is one of the 11 cities which have been identified for the first phase of 5G rollout. I'm very confident that the experience of telcos in 5G rollout will be no different in Telangana than it has been for 4G. We also, in big cities like Hyderabad, Warangal, Karimnagar, etc., are using public Wi-Fi to provide a third way of connecting the people, providing connectivity to the people. But I quote a phrase quite frequently, and I would like to mention that and then draw this people-centric issues there. See, the phrase is, and this is a very commonly known phrase, that you can take a horse to water, but can you make it drink? So creating digital infrastructure is like creating a water body for the horse. But what do you need to do to make that horse drink? You have to go beyond digital infrastructure. And we have seen this because the digital infrastructure project, T-Fiber, is rolling out pretty fast in Telangana. We now have real experiences. So I can share this with you, this perspective with you. Let us say you are a villager, you are living in some rural location in the state. You went to sleep today, and when you woke up in the morning, someone told you that, hey, there is broadband at your doorstep. Many people, a large majority of them, are not going to start jumping with joy. I've got broadband, and they will rush out and they will start buying a tab or a smartphone. For hundreds and thousands of people, it will have no meaning at all, because their priorities are different. They're not sensitized to the digital opportunity. And a few of them may not be able to afford it also, though that number is very, very minuscule in Telangana. So here is that people-centric thing which Arunji is speaking about. So we are very clear now that you can create infrastructure, but if you want buy-in from the people, the best thing and perhaps the only thing to do is to ensure that technology solves the pain points of the common person before their eyes. You identify pain points and then you show to them that if there was no technology, you would have continued to suffer. Because I have brought in a technology enabled intervention, your life has changed. Things have improved for you. And we are doing this on a very large scale for agriculture. See, agriculture is one sector which supports lots of rural livelihoods. And there are small farmers, marginal farmers, tenant farmers, and so on and so forth, who have umpteen challenges. We all know sector is riddled with inefficiencies, missed promises, and so on and so forth. So this is the approach that we follow. We create infrastructure, but that is not the end all and be all. We have to go beyond, which is to get the buy-in of the people. And this can only happen if you show that technology will work for you. Typically, the mindset is that technology is only for people who live in cities, who wear these Western dresses, who speak English. It's not for an ordinary person who never went to school. He only speaks Telugu. He has no understanding of the larger world issues. So that mindset can be broken, but it requires effort to do that.
Absolutely. I think here is a classic example, as Jayesh Ranjan has tried to explain, the people, right? So it's just not the infrastructure, how we orient our solutions towards the people, which makes it actually thoroughly successful. Another interesting phase that I keep hearing about Telangana, sir, like, is about Telangana is synonymously looked at as a state of startup. Right? It is, and when I look at why it has been asked, the answer to that comes in an even more surprising, anecdote. It says that they don't want to, they're not satisfied with frog leap jumps. They are actually looking for pole vault jumps, right? So if that is the giant leap that the state is aspiring to go forward, then it has to happen only with two aspects. We call it as two eyes, right? One is innovation, second is inclusiveness. And I could clearly see the state of Telangana has been able to do well on both accounts. In fact, if I were to look at it from an innovation standpoint, they've come out with a strategy of inter, innovators, and then another strategy about the T Hub. Or in terms of inclusiveness, they've come up with V Hub, which is exclusive for women. So, if I could take your time and try and share to the audience about how these thoughts have got germinated and how it is actually helping the state in terms of promulgating the digital footprint.
Thank you, Arunji. So, see, again, give me a minute extra. I would like to go back in time and explain about how this journey in supporting innovation and entrepreneurship began. So, all of you would know that Telangana is a new state. It is the newest state in the country. It got created 8 years ago. And some of you may know, I know that there are Telugu speaking people in the stage. Mr. Neeraj Mittal is the son in law of Telangana. Mr. Nimmagadda is obviously a Telugu person. So they will know this, but I'm sure some people in the audience may not know this, but there was a protracted struggle to create the state of Telangana because of the sense of deprivation, relative discrimination, that everything is happening for the benefit of people who live in the coastal areas, what is now Andhra Pradesh. People in Telangana are getting deprived. So eventually the agitation has borne fruit. The state of Telangana has been created. So immediately after the state got created, our leadership, our information technology minister in particular, Mr. K.T. Ramarao, he consulted lots of experts to find out how do we really kind of catch up for the lost time. We have lost decades of opportunity, but how do you do things quick now? And exactly the phrase that you use, how do you leapfrog? How do you pole vault actually from here? And domain expert after domain expert advised us that technology will be the game changer for Telangana. You should become a technology enabled state. Everything that you do, every aspect of governance should be supported with technology. And the second message which they gave was that startups today are creating some of the most transformative technologies. Of course, not to say that I can't say that IBM is not doing anything, being I mean, taking their hospitality for this event. Large corporations continue to do what they're expected to do, but much more is happening from the world of startups. And therefore, they advised us that we should encourage startups. Telangana should become a startup friendly state. And from there on, all these initiatives have happened. We have created a large incubator, in fact, the world's largest incubator called T Hub. We have a startup incubator which focuses on women entrepreneurs, which is called V Hub. We know that lots of rural innovators are there whom we typically miss out, thinking that they don't know anything. That typical attitude of looking down upon anything which is happening in rural areas, calling it jugaad and things like that. So there's an institution which encourages rural entrepreneurship. There is an institution which promotes innovation and entrepreneurship mindset in students, and so on and so forth. So, but one of the most important thing which I want to share through this question that you have asked, Arunji, is that in our state, we have brought out a policy to support innovation and entrepreneurship 7 years ago, in which we have a very, very bold feature. The bold feature that we have put there is that if a startup, a homegrown startup, that is, startup has to be from within Telangana, if they have a solution or a product which is of relevance to the government, I will procure it directly from him. See, typically government procurement processes are very complicated. You have to participate in a bidding process, you have to outbid everyone else, and it's all very complicated. And most of the time, startups don't even get the eligibility to participate in the bid because they don't have any net worth, any track record. So in Telangana, we have completely done away with this procurement process. I can bilaterally take it from you. And obviously, government's interest will be on those solutions which make a difference, which makes an impact in the lives of the common man. So I told you about agriculture, but healthcare, nutrition, education, skilling. So this strong message, this strong signaling has gone to the startups that if you want an easy access to the opportunity of the government, then get into these areas, things which are relevant. Of course, there are lots of startups who are doing e-commerce, hyper-local, logistics, which are also fine. I'm not kind of debunking them, but we want to encourage more entrepreneurs who are willing to look at the pain points of a common citizen
Common
and in a
sense.
bottoms up way create solutions for them.
Absolutely. So I think one of the most interesting part which the Telangana government, as Jayesh Ranjan ji has just been mentioning, is about the breaking the ice about the public procurement myths, right? So they once they find a true feature, an innovative feature, a product which is of much in demand and use, they are able to get it. So that's a huge changeover that any state government could ever think about. I think kudos to the state government and the leaders within there. Right. So while we could see a number of initiatives that keeps happening, so one of the biggest aspects about digital transformation has been the emerging tech, right? So whenever I keep hearing the word emerging tech, it gets resonated with government of Tamil Nadu, right? So I could find a number of initiatives that government of Tamil Nadu is trying to pioneer in aspects related to enabling AI in the citizen centric services, or trying to create a specific COE for the blockchain, right? So there's been a number of initiatives that the government has taken. Dr. Neeraj Mittal, could you please share to the audience as to what are such measures that government of Tamil Nadu is taking and future to plan to take to enable citizen centric services with using emerging technology?
Thank you, Arun. And thank you to ET and IBM for giving me this opportunity to be here today. It's wonderful to be with you. I hope you are all uh, awake after lunch. Uh, I wouldn't want to bore you and put you to sleep, so I'll be brief. I think the for governments, citizens are really, really the center stone of any intervention, and particularly states which have been, we have been in India, a welfare state. The governments are expected to take care of all citizen interactions happening with the government. If you take the case of Estonia, I think there are a couple of only two transactions, I don't remember one, possibly one of them might be voting, in which you have to possibly go to a government office, but all the other interactions can be done sitting at home. And that is something which which we have been in Tamil Nadu aspiring for. And that requires, as we said, as Jayesh said, about having a good robust infrastructure, not just physical infrastructure, but infrastructure to access, bridge over the digital divide, make sure that people have the capability and the capacity to actually understand, reach out to it, get those services, have a grievance mechanism. And one of the initiatives which the government has now started is to create a single family state database for all the benefits taking citizens, starting from PDS. And we have created a large federated database with 11 to 12 partner departments, so that it provides a single source of truth to all state schemes. We are intending to supplement it with a blockchain as a service to provide additional features, such as, I don't know, proactive governance. If a student becomes 18 at some point of time, and an automatic link goes to him saying that you're eligible for a driving license, here's the link, go and apply. It's linked to the the payment gateway. It pulls up from his DigiLocker or a state data vault his birth certificate, and it says, okay, age verified, and he's able to get a license online. That is the kind of aspiration that the state is moving towards. We are Arun spoke about deploying emerging technologies. And these technologies, many of them have become very commercialized and off the shelf, which is good for us and good for governance. Some of them include using either data analytics and big data for supporting various departments to create, for example, fiscal space by removing inclusion errors, or by expanding services to the citizens by reducing, identifying exclusion errors, where beneficiaries have been left out, or beneficiaries have been included in. The other area where we are deeply working on is to use off the shelf AI for various citizen related problems. So Jayesh mentioned about agriculture. So in fact, This year, the NASCOM award for a good AI application exemplar award went to our pest control and pest detection system. So it covers multiple pests, couple of crops, and it helps farmers actually prevent misuse of wide variety of insecticides, which may or may not be effective by telling it a specific recommendation. In the previous year, we had an exemplar award of NASCOM on e-Parvai, which is essentially detecting, incipient cataract. We've already done about 1 lakh patients. It's just a simple Android-based application. We have no ophthalmologists in the rural areas. People become blind. It's one of the, most prominent causes of blindness in the country. And these two applications really give us real hope that technology can be deployed, as Jayesh said, on actual helping the people and making them realize at the ground level that it is beneficial for them. It is not for people like us who are sitting here in air conditioned halls and talking about big things. We're also working on few applications like finding ways through which possibly examining radio films and seeing if we can detect tuberculosis. We are trying to work for seeing if we can identify malnutrition in children by just taking pictures and seeing with a large data set if they can identify, and there has been some progress in that. So these are the interventions which the state has done. We've also worked on the policy side, which is another thing which Arun mentioned. So we have come up with a large uh, policy document which documents how any department can actually take the governance journey, the digitalization journey, which is not just simple digitization, but digitization plus business process reengineering. We've also come out with a very significant and detailed data policy on allowing the state to use the data which it produces as a public good. So data not as a private good, but as a public good. So I'll stop here
Yeah.
and back to you, Arun.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Neeraj. Actually, wanted to emphasize the fact that Parvai means it's, eyesight. So, so that was a very beautiful, innovation it's a technology plus innovation together. So it is able to, help out millions of people with the use of small app, which costs nothing for them. So we were able to diagnose. And this other example, which Dr. Neeraj was mentioning about, is the BMI index measurement through a small app. So these are all highly replicable and low cost. And so you could clearly see the state strategy. They're playing the bets on the emerging tech and commercializing it and making it affordable and accessible to all, right? While this has been the strategy for government of Tamil Nadu, government of Uttar Pradesh, in the other hand, is trying to entail a different type of a strategy where they're looking at to say collaboration, inclusiveness as one of the biggest asset, right? So what they've done is to bring in academia as part of the decision making under the pursuit of participative governance. So could we hear from Shri Kumar Vineet in terms of how they have kind of pioneered and championed this kind of a process?
Thanks, Arun. Before I react to your question, I would first of all thank you and ET to be a part of this entire setup, because whenever I came to an idea of some novice idea with some element of juvenile delinquency, my boss always used to say, just keep a tap on what Mr. Jayesh is doing in Telangana, something very good. And now I have just taken a cue that purchasing directly from the startup, and
Absolutely.
if we get some objective optics out of it, that will be a brilliant idea, because every startup has a unique proposition. Coming back to your question, what actually UP is doing, because science, technology, and engineering, we need to have a science base, we need to have an engineering. Engineering by kilo was something that has happened. So many engineers coming on. In the last session itself on the cyber security, there was a question being raised that, okay, we have developed technology, we have developed infrastructure, but where we do get the manpower to support that? And that is exactly where Uttar Pradesh is trying to intervene. We are not just developing the ecosystem which is based upon, say, data centers or center of excellences or various startups coming up or various socio-economic zones coming up, things like that. But we are also trying to inculcate the entire concept in academia as well. So when I say that, I really mean to appreciate that information technology per se, there has to be or artificial intelligence or robotics, or for that drone technology, we have a center of excellence in IIT coming up. So all these elements need to come up in the curriculum. Unless and until we have that in the curriculum, we don't actually have that infrastructure, that person. We might have herds of say technologically enabled people, but we don't have actually employable generation that is coming up. So on that pretext, we have taken up with all the major institutions, right from AK Technology, AKTU, to IIT Kanpur, to IIT BHU, to Madan Mohan Malviya Engineering College, to HBTI. We have taken all the colleges. We have given them one field to each of the colleges, one vertical to excel upon, so that those things can be translated into the academic structure in Uttar Pradesh.
Absolutely. That's the game changing. They are actually making the future ready. And so while other states are looking at the current, trying to contemplate and resolve the current solutions, you look at Uttar Pradesh actually seeding the seeds for the future. Right. Another trendsetter, the Indian government is actually a trendsetter and a global leader in terms of digital public infrastructure, such as your UPI, your digital economy, and DBT, direct benefit transfers. In this aspect, so we have a unique panelist who's, especially best with two portfolios, which includes the finance as well as IT, right? So, Swapneel Paul, is a rightful person from whom we can hear how government of Assam is able to kind of, pioneer and actually lead the way in terms of DBT services.
Thank you, Arunji, and the IBM and ET for giving me the opportunity to come and speak in front of you all. So, during the COVID-19 pandemic, there were repeated waves of COVID and the impending lockdown. And during those times, our Honorable Chief Minister, the then Finance Minister, started a very ambitious scheme called Arunodaya scheme. So that Arunodaya scheme started with 830 rupees to be given to the women of Assam, to 19 lakh women to be precise, of Assam during the waves of COVID. But it continued, and today we are giving 1,000 rupees to 19 lakh beneficiaries across the state, and the money is deposited on the 10th day of every month. And now, since it was rolled out during COVID, so after that we did not have any verification. So right now on 20th of August, we have started a unique initiative under the leadership of our Honorable CM that is called Arunodaya Month. So all these 19 lakh beneficiaries will be visited door to door by non-officials. They are basically students of graduation and undergraduation. They are called the verification teams. They are visiting, and a completely paperless app-based survey has been done whether this existing beneficiaries do at all in today's time fulfill the eligibility criteria and do not fulfill the exclusionary criteria which was given in the scheme guidelines way back in 2020. So this survey is going on, and we are also simultaneously working, as Sir has already mentioned, about the concept of single source of truth. So we are working on a platform called DIDS, Digital Infrastructure for DBT Schemes. So basically there would be a single source of truth, which in our case would be two, and one will be the Aadhaar verified PDS database, and the other will be the Arunodaya database, which will comprise of almost one-third of the entire population of Assam, because 20 lakh into 5, if we consider, it is almost 1 crore. And Assam's population, according to 2011 census, was 3.16 crore. So almost 1/3 of the population of Assam is under that particular scheme only. So this too will basically act as the single source of truth. And after that, any department in government of Assam will be able to launch and implement any DBT scheme without going for any survey in a plug and play mode. So basically tomorrow, after this particular platform goes live, if any department asks finance department that they want to disburse this much amount of money to this category 50 years and above women of these few districts, so they need not go for any survey or anything. Within a day's time, the money will be disbursed to the relevant accounts. So we are working on this digital infrastructure for DBT schemes. And to support that, our cabinet has recently passed the Assam State Data Policy. So basically, interoperability and utility of data across department is a very important thing that should be implemented, I feel, in every government. Because, for example, health department is collecting a data. In today's time, all the departments are working in silos. Education or being finance department, we can't use the health department's data as of now. So this data policy basically will determine the standards of how data will be collected, collated, processed, so that the data which is collected by one department can be used across the department. And finally, we are able to create a thing called the data lake that we call. So for that, the policy aspect is there. As in the previous session, somebody was mentioning about the technology aspect. So for that, we need to have a very important infrastructure for of the state data center and its various units. So now we are also working in one of another policy called the Assam State Data Center and Web Hosting Policy, where basically we are thinking on the lines of how to provide, being IT department, how to provide support to all departments of the government in the SDC itself. Now the situation is such that the departments go for their own clouds, Azure, AWS, this kind of facilities are there. But we don't have an approach where all will come together and the data interoperability can be assured. So this data storage policy also touches upon the DR. The disaster recovery is a very important aspect for any data center. And now the FART DR has to be of a different seismic zone. And Assam is a seismic zone number 5. So we have to have a DR. So disaster recovery is another aspect that we are working. And the most important thing is the managed services. In today's time, the managed services is a big issue for, I think it is for all the governments. That, for example, in the O&M phase, the developer does the managed services. What after the O&M phase is over? We are creating IT systems, but how to sustain them? There are various models. Either we go for the IT pool within the government, or we go for some public-private partnership, or we go for some society. So these are the things on which Assam government is progressing as of now.
Great.
Thank you.
Very well said. I think next time when someone, a business school student is searching for a case study, he doesn't have to go for Estonia. We have all of it here, right? So just that I think we have to invest a little bit of time in creating how this game-changing strategies were there into some kind of repository which can be made available for people at large. Yes. Well, I want to bring to the third lens, which is on the technology front. The changes, that landscape that has happened in this digital era has been like, when I look back, way back in NAGP days, the plan was to go for a selection of a product which is to be developed grounds up, or for a well established product which will get customized, right? So this has been predominantly the approach. But in the recent last 1.5 years, I could clearly see many of the state governments and PSUs, for that matter, have started to embrace a new platform called no code, low code, right? So and slowly that is which was thought could be not a very successful one for the government, but slowly has become one. What does it actually entail? One is it helps in terms of reducing the turnaround time. Of course, another aspect could be is it helps to co-create. So every individual within the ecosystem can have his own MIS, can have his own UI of exchange with the platform, right? So these are fundamental things which catastrophically change in the software pursuit. So we have one pioneer who is a co-founder of a similar platform, Gautam. Could we hear from him as to how he feels that from an industry perspective, how does this help any state government to accelerate their digital journey?
Thank you, Arun.
Yeah.
And thank you, ET, for this opportunity to be with such eminent leaders on the same panel. Um, Before I come to the specific question on how no code, low code will be able to contribute to state government's digital plans, some of the fundamental aspects of digitization or digital plans of any government is to essentially provide great governance to the citizens. So this great governance initiates, in our understanding, from a great policy, great leadership, and then you bring in. So that is the people policy that you were talking about,
Right.
and technology comes as the third step, as an enabler to
Right.
be able to deliver this leadership's vision and this policy's goal.
Yes.
And technology enables for us to be able to scale that and be able to deliver to citizens across, whether it's the state or in fact across the country. Having said that, right? So for, now, what is the fundamental concept of no code? Why does something like that even exist? The idea here is to be able to, as Jayesh sir and Neeraj sir mentioned, the idea is to be able to bring technology and be able to give accessibility to the last citizen. How do we do that? So one, digital infrastructure, but if you have to build software and digital solutions and build them at a rapid pace and be able to scale them, now the amount of time it takes for a regular method or a traditional method spans over years. Uh, what we are trying to fundamentally do is to be able to democratize the ability to build software. So instead of having some elite programmers sitting in cyber city or Silicon Valley building the software, the actual people who understand the problems
The field level.
at the field level, who know the nuances of what is the solution that needs to be built, will be able to participate in the building of the solution. What that does is increases the quality of the solution, very
Absolutely.
importantly.
Yes.
And also it increases the speed at which it is delivered
And the buy-in also.
and the buy-in, because in fact it is no longer that person developed, so we and
Correct,
we are
correct.
implementing. It's in fact the department or
Co-created.
it is co-created. So it is now in fact the ownership of the government or the department that has built the solution. Now it is their product that they're trying to implement. So this fundamentally changes the way solutions can be delivered, and at a rapid scale with higher quality. So the digital plans of any government organization can accelerated by 5 times or even 10 times. We've seen some cases where solutions were built, what was estimated over a period of 1.5 year, they were built on no code platform, our platform, for in a month and a half.
Yeah.
So that made a huge difference in terms of opportunity for the government to be able to deliver its services.
Yes. I remember, I think Cochin shipyard, right? Cochin shipyard.
Cochin Port, yes.
Cochin Port, yes. And the senior leader from there had mentioned, that the overall turnaround time for, the service delivery is almost got optimized by 20%. There's so many success stories. So I'm sure that this is going to be the future. So we've heard on the technology. There's one more element that keeps surprising all of us is how much are we actually advertising ourselves as campaigns, as what we do. And here I could see government of Tamil Nadu actually standing out very tall in this, and they're trying to put out on the emerging tech. In fact, I think we're given to understand one of the Asia's biggest event is likely to surface the market by next month in September. Dr. Neeraj, could you share us some insight about these events and campaigns and to drive this emerging tech?
Yeah, thanks, Arun. So I guess part of doing something well is also to tell the world that you're doing it well, and we haven't been very good at it. And government Tamil Nadu, when it came, the new government realized that Tamil Nadu had a lot of strengths in terms of people, a very good manufacturing ecosystem, a very well connected, state, high urbanization, all the strengths were there. And what we had, something missing, which all the industry leaders told us was, we are not in the boardrooms, and that was a felt need that And we also wanted to represent India as a destination. I think the next 10 years, India is going to be a destination for high tech growth,
Already.
and our software leadership is going to only grow further. So we decided to actually host an event called Umagine, which is kind of a hybrid between, if you've heard of the CES event, which happens in Las Vegas every year, and then something called Slush, which happens in Lisbon. The first one is a technology leadership. The other one is a entrepreneurship driven by startups. So we wanted to bring the features of both of them. So the first one is going to happen in March of next year. We invite all of you to participate. The website is already up. It's called Umagine. Instead of imagine, it's Umagine. So it's giving the power of imagination to the people and the students. And that is one of the things which is going to come up.
Very, very much. We are really looking forward, and already the teasers have come, and it's really exciting. So, and this is a very nice way to go from the government perspective as well. One more last point. For all interventions, the biggest game changer has been the financial sustenance, because as the World Bank standard norm goes, the SDG goals, the sustainability goals, development goals. So whenever I think of this particular aspect, one thing that comes to my mind is in terms of Telangana's social impact group, TISG initiative, where they are able to dovetail all the CSR funds and then able to bring them closer to the department where the need is. Could you share some insight on that, sir, please?
Thank you. So this is again something which we have been able to roll out very successfully in Telangana. We know that there are large number of IT companies, large number of manufacturing companies. Some of the pharma giants of the country are located in Telangana. And each of them are mandated to do CSR, social development projects. Some of them do it by themselves in whatever areas they prioritize. But many of them do require guidance, support, some kind of last mile execution, etc. So we have created this platform which is called the Telangana Social Impact Group, which first of all identifies what are the pressing problems at the grassroots level which the government is not able to adequately answer, and therefore there's a need for additional funding. It also validates or verifies good implementation partners, because the corporates will not implement a project by themselves. They work with an NGO or a civil society organization. So it's like a CRISIL rating. So if the T6 says that these are the 20 NGOs whose backgrounds, whose credentials have been verified, then you can blindly trust them. And obviously we identify those kind of projects which are aligned with the corporate's own interests, and we also create a way in which the employees can also engage directly. So one is, of course, that you sign a check, but are you also encouraging your employees to participate in that initiative? So one of the biggest tests of the success of TSIG was during the COVID times. As we all know, the whole country struggled for hospital beds and oxygen and all that. And I feel very proud that during these 2 years, we were able to mobilize almost 200 plus crores of support from the corporates using this TSIG platform.
Fantastic. So we see another innovation here of crowdsourcing, of pooling of funds financially. In the essence of time, I would request if there are any couple of questions from the audience side before we could come into consensus onto this panel discussion. Any questions? While the audience keeps thinking about it, I would also want to mention about the Uttar Pradesh unique, intervention towards the digital platform. So they're creating a digital platform because they felt that digital platform is the way they're going to deliver services. So for some of the beneficial schemes that they're announcing, they've envisaged this digital platform through which they're going to deliver service. Could we share a brief note on that?
Yes, Arun. Before I answer to your question, I already have a solution for Assam.
Yes.
We have got a huge data center capacity in Uttar Pradesh. So your seismic zone is different, mine is different. We have already more than 850 megawatt of data center coming up. So you can always come to us.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Coming back to what you are saying, so tablet smartphone scheme, many of the states have taken it up. Uttar Pradesh has also taken up, but in a different way, in a big way. And we call it Digi Shakti, digital Shakti or digital enablement. So it is not just distributing the tablets or smartphones, but also enabling and skill enhancement, as we have already discussed. And as Telangana was also mentioning that we need CSR activities into it. So we have also incorporated one of the giant of information technology sector, Infosys, and we have got their CSR activity into it, that they are giving more than 12,000 free of cost programs to enable the students for their employability, for their technical skills, their enhancements and everything. And because this is not something that is just required for an engineer, it is required for everyone. Even an agriculturist who is a startup, he needs basic information and knowledge about the IT sector. So in that way, DigiShakti, something we have got more than 38 lakh 50,000 students on board. We are giving them this opportunity of more than 12,000 courses free of cost, so that they can upskill their employability or their enhancement. Secondly, through that particular portal, we also have a concept through which we can just push on all the employability concepts, all the department related educational contents, so that each and every student can have an access through their digital equipment about all the issues related to employability, their skill enhancement, and subsequently they may be of use of the entire concept. That's it.
Fantastic. This also proves the point that innovation does not neither happen only in conference halls. It can happen in panel discussions as well, right? So two states have actually exchanged the disaster recovery and state data center excellence. So I think we are very much at the end of this panel discussion. Let me first thank each of the panelists here for taking out time and sharing their perspectives and sharing their strategy which worked for the state, and ET, of course, for giving us this wonderful platform for all of us to collaborate and learn. I hope this was a nourishing session for all of us. Thanks for the opportunity. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.